The 47th floor is a vacuum of moral consequence, a hermetically sealed box where the air smells of orchids and old money. To the guests, the glass walls offer a view of the empire. To the architect, they offer the illusion of control. Stellan Vross exists here as a study in static load, bearing the weight of centuries without a tremor, drowning out the noise of his own ghosts with the hum of high-stakes commerce. He believes he has engineered a life impervious to chaos, but the storm outside is about to find a way in. The rain doesn't fall in the financial district. It atomizes against the glass towers, becomes mist, becomes nothing. Stellan watches it from the 47th floor, his reflection superimposed over the city grid below, a geometry of light and absence. The gala hums behind him, all champagne flutes and calculated laughter, the kind of noise that fills space without meaning anything. He adjusts his cufflink. White gold, precise angles, the weight of it grounds him in a way the conversation never could. Mr. Vross. A board member approaches, cologne preceding him by 3 feet. The Singapore acquisition. Already signed. Stellan doesn't turn from the window. The man's heartbeat stutters, a brief arrhythmia of embarrassment. The contracts were finalized at 4 this morning. The heartbeat retreats. Good. He counts the floors of the building across the street, 43 stories. Load-bearing walls every 12 feet. The architect had been competent but unimaginative, prioritizing cost over elegance. Stellan had bought the structure anyway, raised it, rebuilt it with cantilevers that shouldn't work but do. Mathematics made flesh. Or steel. Close enough. His phone vibrates. He ignores it. The 3rd time in 6 minutes. Behind him, someone drops a glass. The sound cuts through the white noise of networking, sharp and final, crystal on marble. Irreversible. He turns, more from the novelty of disruption than concern. The crowd has parted, not dramatically. People don't scatter like pigeons in his world, but there's a gap now, a negative space in the choreographed flow of bodies. At the center of it, impossibly small against the architectural scale of the room, stands a child. She can't be more than 7, soaked through. Her jacket, too large, sleeves rolled, drips onto the white marble in steady percussion. Her sneakers squeak as she shifts weight, scanning faces with the methodical precision of someone conducting a search. Security moves. 2 men in black, converging from opposite vectors. The child's eyes lock on Stellan, brown, dark enough to read as black in this light. She moves before the security detail can intercept, cutting through the crowd with the kind of efficiency that suggests practice at being overlooked. She stops 3 feet from him. Water pools around her shoes. "You're Stellan Vross." Not a question. Her voice carries, despite its thinness, the acoustics of the room, amplifying it into something that silences the nearest conversations. "I am." He doesn't crouch to her level, doesn't soften his tone. "You're trespassing. My mom's dying." She says it the way someone might report a broken appliance. Factual. Immediate. "You have to come now." The security detail arrives. The taller one reaches for the child's shoulder. "Don't." Stellan's voice drops half an octave. The hand freezes. "Who's your mother?" "Verity Kael." "The child, he needs her name." "I'm Juno. She said you'd remember her. She said you owed her something from Prague." Prague. The word hits different than it should, activates neural pathways he'd archived deliberately. 15 years. A restoration project. A woman who could read the bones of buildings the way he could, who'd spent 3 weeks mapping the structural damage of a cathedral bombed in 1945, who'd touched his hand once and said his blood ran cold as rebar, who'd disappeared before he could ask why that didn't seem to bother her. Where is she? South Side. The Flats. Juno pulls a crumpled paper from her pocket. An address in handwriting he recognizes, architectural lettering, the kind taught in drafting courses decades ago. She has maybe 2 hours, maybe less. The Flats. Subsidized housing built in the 70s, already condemned by the 80s, still standing through bureaucratic inertia and the fact that displacing 10,000 people requires paperwork nobody wants to file. He'd reviewed the structural surveys once. Recommended immediate evacuation. Been ignored. Stellan looks at the crowd. Investors. Politicians. People whose names open doors and close investigations. The gala represents 6 months of positioning. 3 major deals hinging on conversations that haven't happened yet. Juno's hand closes around the hem of his tuxedo jacket. Her fingers leave wet marks on the silk. Please. He signals his driver with a gesture too subtle for anyone else to catch. We leave now. The Mercedes cuts through rain that's real here, heavy and mean, the kind that finds every crack in the infrastructure. Streetlights flicker in sequence, a rolling brownout that suggests the grid's barely holding. Stellan watches the architecture devolve as they push south, glass to concrete to brick, to whatever holds walls apart from collapse. Juno sits beside him, not speaking, her breathing the only sound besides the engine and the rain. Her heartbeat runs fast but steady. No panic, just urgency. How long has she been sick? He doesn't look at her, keeps his eyes on the passing buildings, cataloguing failure points. 3 months, maybe 4. Juno wipes her nose with her sleeve. She kept working until last week. Then she couldn't get out of bed. Hospital. Can't afford it. And she said, the child's voice catches. First sign of the fear underneath. She said normal doctors couldn't help anyway, that it was something else. Something else. The phrase hangs in the air between them, heavy with implication. The flats rise ahead. 12 stories of water-stained concrete and broken windows. The kind of structure that offends him on a cellular level, not because it's poor but because it's poorly made. Corners cut. Materials substandard. A building designed to warehouse people, not shelter them. They park in a puddle that might be 3 inches or 3 feet deep. Stellan's shoes, Italian leather, custom last, sink into water that smells of rust and rot. He doesn't hesitate. Juno leads, her small frame navigating the lobby's obstacle course of broken tiles and abandoned furniture with practiced ease. The elevator's broken. Of course it is. They take the stairs, and with each flight, the smell intensifies. Mildew, decay, and underneath it, something sweeter, wronger. 8th floor. Juno stops at a door with 8F in brass numbers. 1 screw missing, so the F hangs crooked. She doesn't knock, just opens it. The apartment is small, clean despite everything. Someone's tried. Furniture arranged to maximize the illusion of space. Plants on the windowsill, fighting the dim light. Architectural drawings cover 1 wall, detailed elevations and sections in that same precise hand. The smell hits him fully now. Blood. Old blood. And something else. Something that makes his teeth ache. Verity lies on a couch too short for her frame, her feet hanging over the edge. She's thinner than he remembers, her skin carrying a translucence that has nothing to do with lighting. But her eyes, when they open, are the same. Grey. Sharp. Seeing too much. Stellan. His name barely makes it past her lips. You came. He crosses the room in 3 strides, kneels beside the couch. Her pulse flutters against his fingertips when he touches her wrist. Too fast, too weak. Her temperature spikes against his perpetual cold. What is this? He keeps his voice level, clinical. What's killing you? The restoration work. She tries to smile. Fails. Turns out some buildings remember, and some of them hold grudges. Her hand moves to her abdomen. When she pulls back the blanket, he sees it. The wound isn't bleeding anymore. It's crystallizing. Stone spreading from the epicenter, grey veins crawling across her skin like cracks in concrete. The cathedral in Prague, she whispers. I took something from it. Something it wanted back. Stellan's mind races through possibilities, discarding conventional medicine immediately. This isn't disease, it's transference. Architectural memory made flesh. He's heard of it, never seen it. My penthouse. Now he lifts her, blanket and all. She weighs nothing. I have equipment there. Stellan. Her hand catches his collar. If you do this, if you save me, it binds you. The transfer requires. I know what it requires. He's already moving toward the door. Juno ahead of them, clearing the path. We'll discuss terms later. The drive back is faster. Illegal speeds. The city blurs. Verity's breathing gets shallower with each mile. The stone has reached her ribcage. His penthouse. Private elevator. Juno's eyes go wide at the space, floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out like a blueprint. But Stellan moves past the view, into the room he never shows investors. Medical equipment. Monitoring systems. And in the center, a chair that's half surgical table, half something older. He places Verity in it. Connects leads. The monitors scream to life. Numbers cascading red. Her heart stops. The flatline shrieks into the sterile air, and Stellan's hands are already moving, tearing open his own wrist with teeth that extend without thought, pressing the wound to her lips as Juno's scream echoes off glass that shouldn't hold but does. The blood hits her tongue and her body convulses, not death throes. Something else. The monitors spike, not flatline anymore, but a rhythm that shouldn't exist in human physiology. Stellan holds his wrist steady against her mouth, feeling the pull, not just blood. Something deeper. The architecture of his being flowing into hers, rebuilding what the stone consumed. Juno's scream cuts off mid-breath. The child stands frozen, watching her mother's body arch against the restraints, watching the grey creep backward from Verity's throat, like time-lapse footage of ice melting. Stellan can hear the girl's heartbeat, rapid, terrified, but underneath it something else. Recognition. As if some part of Juno already knew this moment was coming. Don't look away, Stellan says, his voice rougher than intended. She needs to know you're here when she wakes. The stone pattern retreats inch by inch. Verity's lips work against his wrist, not drinking so much as absorbing. He can feel the transfer happening on a molecular level, his cells teaching hers a new language. Immortality isn't given, it's negotiated. Every atom of her body learning to refuse entropy. The monitors stabilize into something that makes Dr. Aris materialize beside them, the holographic AI's form flickering into solidity. The doctor's translucent fingers hover over the readouts, not touching but analyzing. Unprecedented metabolic restructuring, Dr. Aris announces, his voice carrying that peculiar flatness of artificial intelligence, trying to sound clinical about the impossible. Her cellular decay has reversed. Mitochondrial function increasing exponentially. But there's something else. The stone residue. It's not disappearing. It's integrating. Stellan pulls his wrist back. The wounds close immediately, skin knitting seamlessly. Verity's eyes remain shut, but her breathing has changed. Deeper, steadier. The grey hasn't vanished entirely. It's settled into patterns along her collarbones, her wrists, like veins, but mineral. beautiful in a way that makes his architect's mind catalogue it as structural reinforcement. How long? Juno's voice is small. She's moved closer, one hand reaching toward her mother but not quite touching. Hours. Maybe less. Stellan wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, tasting copper and something older. The transformation isn't instant. Her body needs time to accept what I've given her. He turns to face the child properly. Juno Kael, 7 years old according to the school records he'd pulled up during the drive. But her eyes hold something ancient, something that recognizes him not as monster, but as solution. She's wearing a jacket too large for her frame, sleeves rolled up multiple times. There's paint under her fingernails, the same shade of blue as the cathedral in Prague. You knew, Stellan says. Not a question. Juno nods slowly. Mom said if the stone got bad, I should find the man who builds things that don't fall down. She showed me your buildings, said you understood about things that last. The weight of that statement settles into his chest. Verity had planned this. Researched him, known exactly what kind of monster to seek out when conventional medicine failed. The audacity of it would be impressive if it weren't so reckless. Sit. He gestures to the chair beside Verity's medical table. Juno climbs up, legs dangling. Stellan moves to the windows, needing distance, needing to think. The city spreads below them, 47 floors of vertical distance between this room and the street. Rain streaks the glass, distorting the lights into abstract patterns. Behind him, the monitors beep their steady rhythm. Dr. Aris continues his analysis, muttering about cellular regeneration rates and unprecedented blood chemistry. Stellan lets the words wash over him, focusing instead on the reflection in the glass. Verity's body still and pale on the table. Juno beside her, one small hand finally resting on her mother's arm, and himself, a shadow between them and the world. Tell me about Prague, he says. Juno's reflection shifts. We were restoring the ceiling. Mom's really good at old buildings. She can see what they used to be before people messed them up. The cathedral had this section that was wrong. Not broken. Wrong. Like someone had built it to hold something in. Stellan turns. And she opened it. She didn't mean to. There was a stone behind the plaster, really old. Older than the cathedral, she said. It had writing on it, but not any language she knew. She touched it to see if it was stable, and Juno's voice cracks. It went into her, like water into a sponge. She said it felt like drowning in concrete. Architectural memory. Stellan has heard the legends, buildings that remember their purpose so strongly they become sentient. Cathedrals built on pagan sites, absorbing centuries of conflicting worship until the structure itself develops consciousness. Usually it's harmless. Occasionally it's not. The stone wanted something, he says. It wanted to be remembered. Juno's eyes are too old for her face. Mom said it was lonely, that it had been holding something important for so long, it forgot what it was. And when she touched it, it tried to show her. But humans aren't supposed to hold that much memory. It was killing her, trying to make her understand. The monitors spike. Verity's body jerks once, hard enough that the restraints creak. Her eyes snap open, not brown anymore, but something between grey and silver, like polished concrete. They fix on the ceiling, unseeing, and her mouth opens in a gasp that sounds like wind through empty corridors. Stellan is beside her instantly. Verity, you're safe. The transfer is complete. Her eyes track to him. Recognition flickers, then sharpens. Stellan. His name in her mouth sounds different. Resonant. I can hear the building. All of them. Every structure in the city. They're singing. That will fade. Dr. Aris interjects. Enhanced sensory perception is normal during the first hours of transformation. Your neural pathways are adapting to immortal processing speeds. Mom? Juno's whisper cuts through the clinical explanation. Verity's head turns. The movement is too smooth, too controlled. She's learning her new body in real time. Baby, I'm here. She looks down at her hands, at the grey patterns tracing her veins. What did you do to me? Saved your life. Stellan begins disconnecting the monitors. The stone was consuming you from the inside. Human physiology couldn't contain it. Now you have the cellular structure to integrate it instead of being destroyed by it. You made me like you. Not accusation. Statement of fact. I gave you the option to survive. What you do with it is your choice. Verity sits up slowly. The restraints fall away. She touches her throat where the stone had been creeping toward her heart, feeling the mineral patterns beneath her skin. Juno climbs onto the table, wrapping small arms around her mother's waist. Verity holds her daughter, and Stellan watches the way her fingers tremble, the only sign of the fear she's not voicing. The cathedral, Verity says over Juno's head. The stone's memory, it's still here. I can feel it. But it's not drowning me anymore. It's organized, like files in a cabinet. Show me. She closes her eyes. When she speaks again, her voice carries harmonics that weren't there before. There was a church before the cathedral, and a temple before that. And before the temple, a circle of stones that marked the place where something was buried. Something that predates Christianity, predates Rome. The stone I touched was a marker, a warning. It said, her eyes open silver bright. It said the sleeper beneath should never wake. The room goes very quiet. Even Dr. Aris stops his analysis. What sleeper? Juno asks. I don't know. The memory ends there, but whatever it is, it's been sleeping for thousands of years, and the stone was terrified I'd disturb it by accident. Verity looks at Stellan. That's why it tried to show me everything at once. It was panicking. Stellan's mind works through the implications. Ancient warnings. Buried entities. And now Verity carries the knowledge of something that shouldn't be disturbed, locked in her transformed cells. The council will want to know about this. Cyprian especially. The Auditor has been looking for an excuse to investigate Stellan's activities for decades. You'll need training, he says. The transformation is complete, but controlling it takes time. Strength, speed, sensory input, everything is amplified. Without proper guidance, you'll hurt someone accidentally. How long? Weeks. Maybe months. He moves to the windows again, tracking the rain patterns. You'll stay here, both of you. This building is warded. The council can't enter without invitation. The council, Verity's voice sharpens. The governing body of our kind. They maintain the balance between our world and yours. They'll have questions about an unauthorized transformation, especially one involving architectural memory from a sacred site. You didn't get permission. There wasn't time. Stellan turns back to face her. And I don't ask permission to save lives. Verity studies him, her new eyes seeing too much. You're in trouble because of me. I've been in trouble before. I'll handle it. Juno yawns suddenly, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. Verity gathers her daughter close, and Stellan watches the protective instinct override everything else. Mother and child. The oldest bond. The one thing that transcends species. There's a bedroom through there, he says, gesturing to a door. It's secure. Rest. We'll discuss next steps when you wake. Verity slides off the table, testing her legs. She moves with the careful precision of someone learning to walk in a body that no longer follows old rules. Juno clings to her, half asleep already. They disappear into the bedroom, and Stellan hears the door lock from the inside. Smart. She doesn't trust him yet. Good. Dr. Eris flickers. The transformation was successful, but irregular. Her cellular structure shows hybrid characteristics I've never documented. The stone's influence has created something new. Will she be stable? Unknown. I recommend continuous monitoring for the next 72 hours. Stellan dismisses the AI with a gesture. The hologram dissolves, leaving him alone with the monitors and the rain. He should contact the council. Explain the situation before Cyprian hears about it through other channels. But something stops him. Some instinct that says, once he makes that call, events will spiral beyond his control. The building's security system chimes softly. Stellan pulls up the interface on the nearest screen. Exterior cameras. Someone at the private elevator. His chest tightens. The screen resolves into clarity. Cyprian Holt stands in the lobby, looking directly at the camera. Impeccable suit. Silver hair pulled back. Eyes that have witnessed centuries and judged them all wanting. The auditor's mouth moves, speaking to the building's AI. Stellan activates the audio feed. Know you're monitoring, Vross. I can smell fresh transformation from here. You've broken Protocol 7. Again, Cyprian's smile doesn't reach his eyes. I'm coming up. We need to talk about your newest project, and about the woman carrying stolen memory from a council-protected site. The elevator begins to rise. Stellan looks toward the bedroom door where Verity and Juno sleep, then back at the screen showing Cyprian's ascent, 47 floors. Maybe 3 minutes. The building's AI speaks in his ear, feminine and precise. Perimeter breach confirmed. Council Auditor Cyprian Holt, elevator approaching penthouse level. Shall I activate defensive protocols? His hand hovers over the control panel. One command and the elevator stops. But that only delays the inevitable. Cyprian has authority to override any security system in the city. Better to face him now on Stellan's terms than let him arrive with backup. Let him come, Stellan says. The numbers on the elevator display climb. 43. 44. 45. Behind him through the bedroom door, he hears Verity's breathing change. She's awake. Listening, her new senses already picking up the threat approaching. 46. Stellan straightens his collar, wipes the last trace of blood from his mouth. The architect in him calculates angles, exit strategies, structural weaknesses in his own defenses. The vampire in him simply waits, patient as stone. 47. The elevator doors open with a whisper of hydraulics. Cyprian Holt steps into the penthouse, and his eyes go immediately to the medical equipment. The monitors still displaying Verity's transformed vitals, the faint scent of fresh blood and older magic hanging in the sterile air. Well, the auditor says softly, this is going to be complicated. Stellan doesn't move, doesn't speak. The silence stretches between them like a wire pulled taut, humming with potential violence. Cyprian's gaze travels across the room with methodical precision. The IV stand, the biosynthesizer with its faint crimson glow, the monitors displaying vitals that no human should possess. His nostrils flare slightly, passing the chemical signature of transformation hanging in the recycled air. You've made her, Cyprian says. Not a question, an indictment. I've saved her. Stellan's voice carries no inflection. Behind him, through the bedroom door left deliberately ajar, he hears the rustle of sheets. Verity rising, the child still sleeping, her breathing steady and innocent. Cyprian takes 3 steps into the penthouse. His shoes, Italian leather, recently polished, make no sound on the marble floor. The council will need to verify that claim. You understand the protocols, Stellan. An unauthorized conversion, especially involving a minor in proximity. The child is untouched. But exposed, Cyprian's eyes find the bedroom door. That alone requires intervention. Assessment, possibly relocation until we can determine. The lights dim, not gradually, instantly. The floor-to-ceiling windows darken from clear to obsidian, shutting out the city's glow. Only the medical monitors remain illuminated, casting Cyprian's face in sickly blue. Stellan still hasn't moved from his position by the window. His hand rests against the glass, fingers splayed. To Cyprian, it might look casual, but through the neural interface embedded in his palm, Stellan feels the building respond. Every system, every sensor, every carefully calibrated environmental control, now an extension of his will. "You're not taking them anywhere," Stellan says. The temperature drops 5 degrees in 3 seconds. Cyprian's breath becomes visible, a small cloud of vapor in the suddenly Arctic air. He doesn't reach for his coat, doesn't acknowledge the cold. But Stellan sees the micro-adjustment in his stance, weight shifting to maintain core temperature. Theatrical, Cyprian observes, but ultimately futile. "I have council authority to." The air pressure changes. Stellan watches Cyprian's pupils dilate as the penthouse atmosphere compresses, then releases, then compresses again. A rhythmic pulse that matches Stellan's own heartbeat. The auditor's hand goes to his temple, steadying himself against the invisible assault. "This building," Stellan says quietly, "was designed by me. Every vent, every sensor, every structural element calibrated to my specifications. You're standing in my architecture, Cyprian. My rules." The bedroom door opens. Verity emerges wearing one of Stellan's shirts. Her feet bare on the cold marble, her new eyes, still adjusting, still learning to filter the overwhelming sensory input, reflect the monitor light like polished amber. She moves with the uncertain grace of someone inhabiting an unfamiliar body, each step deliberate. Cyprian turns toward her, and Stellan sees the calculation happening behind those cold eyes, assessing threat level, cataloguing evidence, building his case. "Mrs. Kael," Cyprian begins, his voice sliding into bureaucratic sympathy. "I understand you've been through a traumatic medical event. The council has excellent facilities for newly converted individuals. Counseling, training, legal advocacy for custody arrangements during transition. No," Verity's voice is raw, unused. But certain, the windows begin to vibrate. It starts as a low-frequency hum, barely perceptible, then builds. The reinforced glass, rated for Category 5 hurricanes, designed to flex rather than shatter, resonates with increasing intensity. Cyprian's hand drops from his temple to his side, fingers twitching toward the weapon. Stellan knows he carries beneath his jacket. "Don't," Stellan says. The word carries weight beyond its syllable. The air pressure spikes again, harder this time, and Cyprian staggers. His knee hits the marble with a crack that echoes through the penthouse. He catches himself with one hand, the other still reaching for his weapon. Stellan finally moves. 3 steps bring him to Cyprian's position. He doesn't touch the auditor, doesn't need to. He simply stands there, and the building responds to his proximity. The lights pulse faster. The temperature plummets another 10 degrees. The window's vibration becomes a shriek of stressed glass and carbon fiber. "You came here to assess a threat," Stellan says, looking down at the kneeling auditor. "Let me clarify the situation. That woman, He gestures toward Verity without turning, was dying. Cellular degeneration, irreversible, terminal. Her daughter was about to lose her only parent. I had the means to prevent that outcome. So I did. Cyprian's jaw clenches. The law, Stellan interrupts, was written by vampires who forgot what it means to protect something fragile, who forgot that power without purpose is just violence wearing a suit. He crouches, bringing himself to eye level with Cyprian. The building's systems calm slightly, the pressure easing enough for the auditor to breathe without pain. You want to take my report back to the council, Stellan continues. Fine. Tell them Stellan Vross converted a dying human to save her life. Tell them he did it in his own home, using his own blood, accepting full responsibility for her transition. Tell them there's a child involved. Yes, but she's untouched, unharmed, and now has a mother who will live to raise her. Stellan stands, offering his hand. Cyprian stares at it for 3 long seconds, then takes it, allowing himself to be pulled upright. His legs shake slightly, residual effect of the pressure changes, but he steadies himself with visible effort. The council won't accept this, Cyprian says. You know they won't. Then let them come. Stellan releases the auditor's hand, steps back. The building's systems normalize. Lights return to standard illumination. Temperature rises to comfortable levels. Windows cease their vibration, returning to transparent clarity. But they'll find the same thing you did. A family. Protected. Legal. Mine. Cyprian adjusts his jacket, smoothing imaginary wrinkles. His eyes find Verity again, then flick toward the bedroom where Juno sleeps. When he looks back at Stellan, something has shifted in his expression. Not acceptance, but recognition. You're claiming them, Cyprian says. Formally, I am. That's a blood oath, Stellan. Binding, permanent. If she fails transition, if the child is harmed, if any element of this arrangement violates council law, you forfeit your seat, your holdings, your existence. Stellan walks to the medical station. The biosynthesizer hums quietly, its reservoir nearly empty. He picks up a sterile scalpel from the instrument tray, tests its edge against his thumb. Sharp enough. I know the terms, he says. He draws the blade across his palm in one smooth motion. Blood wells immediately, dark and rich, pooling in the cup of his hand. He positions it over the biosynthesizer's intake port and lets it drip. 3 drops. 4. 5. The machine accepts his offering, analyzing, cataloging, storing, binding him to his promise through the most ancient contract their kind recognizes, blood given freely. Protection claimed absolutely. Cyprian watches the ritual with unreadable eyes. When Stellan's palm heals, the cut sealing itself in seconds, the auditor finally nods. I'll file the claim, Cyprian says, but the council will send observers. Regular assessments. Any sign of instability won't happen. Cyprian moves toward the elevator, then pauses at the threshold. You've changed, Stellan. The architect I knew wouldn't have risked everything for 2 humans. They're not human anymore, Stellan replies. One of them never was. The elevator doors close on Cyprian's expression, something between concern and envy. Silence reclaims the penthouse. Stellan stands motionless, listening to the building settle around him. The HVAC system cycles back to normal parameters. The windows reflect the city's lights once more, everything returning to its calibrated equilibrium. Except him. Verity approaches slowly, her bare feet silent on the marble. She stops beside him, close enough that he can feel the heat radiating from her new body, warmer than human, cooler than vampire, something in between. Thank you, she whispers. He doesn't respond. Doesn't know how. The architect in him wants to explain the structural integrity of what he's built here, the careful engineering of their protection. But the words feel inadequate against the weight of what's actually happened. Instead, he walks to the bedroom door. Juno sleeps in the center of the massive bed, small and impossibly fragile against the white sheets. Her dark hair spreads across the pillow, one hand curled near her face. Dreaming, probably, unaware of the violence that nearly touched her. Stellan feels Verity move beside him, her shoulder brushing his arm. They stand together in the doorway, watching the child breathe. She'll need a bigger room, Stellan says finally. Space for her books, better light for drawing. Verity's hand finds his. Her grip is stronger than she intends, still learning to calibrate her new strength. He doesn't pull away. We'll figure it out, she says. Through the windows, dawn begins its slow approach. The city's lights start to dim, yielding to the sun's inevitable arrival. Stellan should feel the pull of day sleep, that ancient imperative to seek darkness. But he remains standing, watching the child sleep, feeling Verity's hand in his. The building hums around them. Protective, permanent, home.